There are nights that break you in ways you cannot explain to anyone. Not the loud kind of breaking, not the dramatic kind that earns sympathy and draws people close. The quiet kind, the kind where you are sitting completely still, the room is calm, everyone around you seems fine, and something deep inside you is quietly coming apart at the seams. You are not crying, you are past crying. You are sitting in that particular silence that comes after you have already cried everything out, and what remains is just a hollow kind of aching, a tiredness that sleep does not fix, a longing that has no clean name. And somewhere in that silence, the question rises again, the one you have asked 1,000 times, the one you feel guilty for asking but cannot stop, the one that sits at the very center of your longing like an unanswered letter. Ya Allah, where are they? Where is the person you wrote for me? Where is the one who will look at me and actually see me? The one whose presence will feel like coming home after years of wandering? The one I have been making dua for in the quietest corners of my nights, in the last moments before sleep, in the spaces between words when I did not even have the language anymore, just the ache. Where are they? And the silence answers nothing. And morning comes, and you carry it again. But tonight, I want to offer you something different. Not a motivational speech, not a list of things to do, something deeper than that. A different way of seeing the very road you are already walking. Because what if the silence was not empty? What if the waiting was not wasted? What if Allah has been answering that prayer not by withholding, but by building? Building the road, building your heart, building the version of you that will be capable of receiving and sustaining the love you have been begging for. What if the guidance you asked for has already begun, and you have been living inside it this entire time without recognizing it? Tonight we are going to talk about 8 of the most profound, most real, most deeply personal ways Allah guides a believing heart toward the person written for them, not through thunder and lightning, not through dramatic signs in the sky, but through the quiet, surgical, tender precision of a God who knows every wound in your chest and every name written in your destiny. Stay here. What you are about to hear may change everything about how you see your story. Before we begin, let me speak to you as if no one else is in the room, because what I am about to say most people will not say to you. Most people will give you timelines and advice and cheerful reassurances. I want to give you something more honest than that. You have been through things in love that left marks. Not small things, real things, connections that consumed you completely and ended without the closure you deserved. Attachments that felt like destiny and turned out to be lessons dressed in the language of promise. Moments where you gave everything, every ounce of your patience and your vulnerability and your sincere hope, and received something far less than what you offered in return. And you kept going. That is the part no one acknowledges enough. You kept praying. You kept believing, even when the belief felt thin as paper, even when trust felt like an act of defiance against all available evidence. You kept your face turned toward Allah and kept whispering the same prayer into the dark. That is not small. That is one of the most profound acts of faith a human being can perform. To keep believing in Allah's mercy when you are living through something that feels like its absence. To keep asking when the silence has stretched so long that asking itself feels like a kind of madness. But here is what I need you to understand before anything else tonight. Allah al-Latif, the subtle, the incomprehensibly gentle one, does not guide his servants the way we expect to be guided. We expect the guidance to arrive from outside, a person, a meeting, a sudden change in circumstances. But Allah's deepest guidance, his most personal and most transformative guidance, arrives from within. It arrives as a shift in your heart, a change in what you find beautiful, a growing intolerance for what once felt normal, a deepening peace that has no obvious external cause. And before he brings the right person to your life, he transforms the person who will receive them. He transforms you. The question is not whether this transformation is happening. It is whether you have the eyes to recognize it. Allah makes the wrong connections feel like what they are. beautiful traps that no longer hold you. One of the first and most powerful signs that Allah is guiding you toward the right person is that He begins to remove the sweetness from everything that was never meant for you. There was a time, and you know exactly what time I am speaking of, when a particular kind of connection felt intoxicating, when inconsistency read as mystery, when unavailability read as exclusivity, when someone who kept you permanently uncertain felt more thrilling than someone who would have been simply, quietly, consistently there, and you stayed. You held on with a grip born not from love, but from the desperate hope that if you just waited long enough, gave enough, adjusted yourself enough, loved hard enough, it would eventually become what it was pretending to be. You rearranged your self-respect. You rationalized things that your instincts knew were wrong. You built entire futures in your imagination out of moments that were never meant to be foundations, and some part of you knew it. In the quietest, most honest part of yourself, some part of you always knew that what you were holding on to was a beautiful illusion held together by your own longing. But then something extraordinary began to happen. The illusion stopped holding, not because the person changed, not because the situation became dramatically worse, but because something in you began to change. The highs stopped compensating for the lows. The excitement stopped covering the emptiness underneath it. What once felt like passion began to feel like exhaustion. What once read as chemistry began to feel like chaos wearing chemistry's clothing. And the chaos, crucially, stopped being something you were willing to organize your entire emotional life around. This is Allah's hand. This is Al-Latif, working in the most intimate space available to Him, which is the interior of your heart, quietly and precisely recalibrating what you can and cannot accept, raising the floor of what you consider tolerable, making it biologically, emotionally, spiritually impossible for you to continue settling for what you were once willing to endure. The Quran speaks of those whose hearts Allah has sealed, who cannot perceive the truth even when it stands before them. But there is also the opposite mercy, the heart that Allah has opened, the heart that He has made sensitive to what is real and impervious to what is false. And that opening, that growing inability to be fooled by what once fooled you completely, is one of the most sacred gifts He can give a searching soul. When the wrong connection stops feeling like a possibility and starts feeling like a prison, that is not failure, that is elevation. That is Allah lifting you above what once had the power to hold you down. That is your heart being made too honest, too aware, too anchored in something real to be satisfied by something hollow. The trap is losing its power, and the only reason a trap loses its power is that the one inside it has grown too large for it to contain. You have grown, and the growth itself is the answer to your prayer. Allah rewrites the deepest language of your desire. Here is something almost no one will tell you about the journey to the right person. The most important change that has to happen is not about finding someone. It is about what happens to the word beautiful inside your heart. Because what you find beautiful determines everything. It determines who you are drawn toward in a crowded room. It determines what qualities make your heart pause and pay attention. It determines what you will tolerate, what you will pursue, what you will mistake for love, and what you will recognize as the real thing when it finally stands before you. And for many of us, for most of us in our younger years of searching, the word beautiful has been defined by things that feel powerful but leave us empty. Looks that demanded admiration, charm that was magnetic but directionless, attention that was intense but inconsistent, confidence that was really just a well-crafted armor over something unexamined. And we chased those things not because we were foolish, but because no one had ever shown us what the alternative felt like. No one had shown us what it feels like to sit in the presence of someone whose character is the same when no one is watching as when everyone is. No one had modeled the particular kind of magnetic pull that comes from genuine sincerity, from a person whose words and actions are not in constant negotiation with each other, from someone who makes you feel seen rather than surveilled, known rather than evaluated. And so we learned. The hard way, the only way that truly teaches, through living it. But Allah, in His mercy, does not leave the lesson incomplete. After the living comes the transformation. After the repeated experience of building on what does not hold, comes the deep internal revision of what the heart calls desirable. And you notice it first in small ways. You are at a gathering and someone is speaking with extraordinary gentleness about a difficult situation, and something in your chest pulls toward them in a way you do not entirely understand. You encounter someone who, rather than performing their faith, simply inhabits it, and you find yourself moved by a quality you could not have articulated even a year ago. You observe someone choose patience when anger would have been far easier, and the beauty of that choice reaches something in you that mere physical attractiveness never quite reached. You are changing. Your desire is being rewritten at its foundation. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, guided us to choose based on deen, and those who truly internalize that guidance will tell you that it is not a sacrifice of attraction. It is the discovery of a deeper, more lasting, more nourishing form of attraction, one that does not diminish with time, but actually deepens as you come to know the person more fully, one that is rooted in something that cannot be taken by aging or circumstances or the ordinary erosions of daily life. Allah is changing what beautiful means inside you. He is aligning your longing with what will actually satisfy it. He is making you capable of recognizing the right person, not because they fit an old pattern, but because something new in you responds to something real in them. And when that day comes, when you encounter someone and feel that new, unfamiliar, quietly powerful recognition, you will understand what all the changing was for. Every layer that Allah stripped away from your understanding of beautiful was making room for this. For a love your earlier self would not have had the eyes to see. Allah uses absence to burn away everything that was only ever performance. Distance is one of Allah's most ruthless and most loving teachers. And it is ruthless precisely because it is loving. When someone we are attached to becomes unavailable, our entire emotional system responds as though to a threat. We scramble, we reach, we replay every conversation searching for what we said wrong, what we should have said instead, what version of ourselves might have produced a different outcome. We make ourselves small and then smaller still, trying to fit through a door that was perhaps never meant to open for us. This is the attachment speaking. This is the wound speaking. This is years of learned belief that love is conditional and presence must be earned, and if someone leaves it is because we were not enough to make them stay. But what distance actually does, what it is divinely designed to do when Allah sends it, is reveal the difference between what is real and what was only ever sustained by proximity. Think about every connection you have grieved. In the rawness of its ending, it felt irreplaceable. It felt like the loss of something singular and irreversible. But with time, with honest reflection, what did the distance reveal? Did it reveal a love that was genuinely rooted in something that knew you and chose you anyway? Or did it reveal an attachment that had been mistaken for love, a powerful feeling built on need and familiarity and the comfort of having someone rather than the rightness of that particular someone? Distance is not comfortable, but it is clarifying in a way that nothing else can be. And crucially, distance clarifies something about yourself that may be the most important revelation of all. When the person or situation you defined yourself through is no longer available, who are you? What remains when the relationship is removed? Do you find a person who is whole and grounded and capable of returning to Allah and to themselves? Or do you find an emptiness so profound that it reveals how completely you had outsourced your sense of self to another human being? This is not a comfortable question, but it is a necessary one, because Allah is not preparing you for a love that you will need in order to feel real. He is preparing you for a love between two people who are already real, already whole, already anchored in something greater than each other. A love that is chosen every day not from desperation, but from genuine, freely given devotion. And to arrive at that love, you first have to discover that you can exist without what you thought you needed. You have to find, through the hard teacher of absence, that Allah alone is sufficient, that in the silence left by every departed connection, He was always there, that your completeness was never dependent on any human being, no matter how powerfully they made you feel otherwise. The connection that faded did not take you with it. You are still here, and who you are, standing in the aftermath of everything you have lost, is more prepared for real love than who you were when you thought you had already found it. Allah reaches into the darkest rooms of your soul and begins to repair what was broken before you even knew it was broken. Before the right person can arrive, before they can be received and cherished and loved well, something else has to happen first. Something that happens entirely outside of any relationship, in the most private interior of your life. Allah has to heal what chose wrong before. This is the teaching that requires the most courage to receive, because it asks us to look honestly at ourselves, not to condemn ourselves, not to spiral into shame or self-criticism, but to look with clear, compassionate eyes and ask, what wound in me has been making decisions on my behalf? Because wounds make decisions. This is one of the most significant psychological and spiritual truths about human beings. When something has been broken inside us, when loss or rejection or betrayal or absence has left a mark, that mark does not simply sit quietly. It influences, it generates beliefs, it creates patterns, it reaches forward into our present and shapes what we reach toward, what we run from, what we mistake for love, and what frightens us in the people who might actually be safe. The person who was abandoned in childhood will sometimes run from consistency because consistency never existed in their formative experience, and its presence feels suspicious. The person who was criticized will sometimes choose partners who criticize them because familiar pain is less terrifying than unfamiliar peace. The person who was taught that love must be earned will exhaust themselves performing for the approval of someone who was never going to give it freely. None of this is weakness. All of it is a wound behaving the way wounds behave when they have not yet been tended. And Allah, who created the human soul with a precision more intimate than any doctor's understanding, who knows every fracture in every heart before the person themselves has named it, does not send the right love before He begins mending what would prevent you from keeping it. He does this through solitude that becomes self-understanding rather than self-punishment. Through the gradual, sometimes agonizing process of sitting with yourself long enough to begin to know yourself, through the extraordinary grace of a moment when something breaks open inside you and you see, with sudden painful clarity, the pattern you have been living inside, and you choose for the first time not to follow it again. Through therapy sometimes, through a conversation that arrives at exactly the right moment, through a verse of Quran you have read 100 times that suddenly speaks directly to the wound you did not know you were carrying, through the slow accumulation of small brave choices to be honest with yourself when dishonesty would have been so much more comfortable. Healing is not a single event, it is a direction. It is a series of choices to keep moving toward wholeness, even when wholeness feels far away and the old patterns feel so natural and so close. But every step in that direction changes you. Every layer of old wound that is gently removed reveals something stronger and more beautiful underneath. Every moment of choosing differently than you have chosen before is Allah's grace and your own courage working together to build the person who can love someone well. And when you can love someone well, when you are no longer loving from your wounds but from your wholeness, from your awareness, from your genuine choice rather than your fear, then what you offer another human being is something extraordinary. It is love that has cost something, love that has been earned through real work, love that knows its own patterns and has chosen to transcend them. That is the love worthy of the person Allah is preparing for you, and you are being made capable of offering it, one healed layer at a time. Allah gifts you a stillness so deep, it could only come from Him. There is a particular quality of peace that begins to settle on a heart that is nearing readiness, and it is unlike any peace you have felt before, because it arrives not when things get better on the outside, But when something fundamental shifts on the inside, it is sakina, and it is one of the most unmistakable signs that Allah is actively working in your life. You will recognize it because it feels different from everything you have previously associated with calm. The calm you knew before was often just the absence of immediate crisis, a temporary lull between storms, a surface stillness that the smallest provocation could shatter. But this is different. This peace has weight to it, substance. It does not evaporate when circumstances shift. It holds even when things around you are uncertain, even when the waiting continues, even when the answer you have been praying for has not yet arrived. Something in you has stopped fighting the timeline. This is more significant than it sounds, because the fighting, the constant internal battle against Allah's timing, is exhausting in ways we rarely admit. It drains something profound. It keeps the heart perpetually tense, perpetually braced for disappointment, perpetually half present in its own life because the other half is always reaching ahead toward what is not yet here. But sakina comes when the fighting stops, when the heart makes a true surrender, not the defeated kind that is really just suppressed desperation, but the real kind, the kind that says, "Ya Allah, I believe you are writing something better than what I was trying to write for myself. I release my grip on the timeline. I release my need to understand the delay. I choose to trust you, not because the trusting is easy, but because you have earned that trust through everything you have already carried me through." And when that surrender is genuine, something beautiful happens in its wake. The heart becomes present, for perhaps the first time in years, fully, entirely present in the life that is actually happening, rather than the one being imagined or feared. You begin to notice beauty that was always there and always being overlooked. You begin to enjoy your own company in a way that once felt impossible. You begin to build your life not as a placeholder until the right person arrives, but as something real and valuable and worth inhabiting fully. And it is often from this place, from this groundedness, from this unhurried presence, that the most significant meetings of a life occur. Not from the desperate searching, not from the anxious scanning of every encounter for signs of the one, but from the stillness of a heart that has finally stopped trying to force the story and has surrendered the authorship back to Allah. If you are living in that stillness right now, honor it. Do not mistake its quiet for emptiness. It is not emptiness, it is the fullness of a heart that has finally found its true foundation. And from that foundation, everything else can be built. Allah removes people from your path with a precision that is nothing less than miraculous. Every departure in your life that felt like a loss was simultaneously a decision being made on your behalf by the one who could see what you could not. Let that sit for a moment, because this teaching, received fully and without reservation, has the power to reframe every painful ending in your entire history of love. The person who left without explanation, the connection that dissolved just when it seemed most certain, the relationship that came heartbreakingly close to the life you had imagined, and then, for reasons that made no logical sense, simply did not happen. The door that closed so firmly that all your effort could not reopen it. Every single one of those closures was Allah's hand, not His neglect, not His indifference, not the evidence of your unworthiness. His hand, active, intentional, merciful in ways that required the distance of time or the clarity of new experience before they could be understood. Because Allah does not only build the right things into your story, He also, with equal care and equal love, removes the wrong ones. And the removing often hurts more than almost anything else in a human life, because the things being removed frequently appear to the human eye as exactly what should stay. We are not capable of seeing what Allah sees. We see one chapter, He sees the entire book. We see how something feels in this moment. He sees what it would have become across years and decades. We see what we want. He sees what we need, what we are ready for, what would make us flourish, what would slowly and quietly diminish us even while appearing to be love. And sometimes, many times, what would have diminished us appeared to be everything, appeared to be the answer to every prayer. appeared to be the person, the connection, the destiny we had been certain was written for us. But Allah knew, and He moved it, and the moving was mercy. If you look back at every connection that ended, every person who left, every door that closed despite your most sincere effort to hold it open, and you ask the honest question, where would that road have taken me? You may find, with the clarity that only time provides, that the road would not have led where you wanted to go, that the connection, even had it continued, would have gradually required you to become less of yourself rather than more, that the door that closed was protecting a future you could not yet see. This does not make the pain retroactively painless. The grief was real, the loss was real, the longing was real. All of it was real and all of it mattered. But the loss was also, simultaneously, a rescue. And the one who orchestrated it did so not from distance, but from the intimacy of knowing you more completely than you know yourself. Every removal made space, space that is still being filled, space that belongs to what is coming. Trust the space. It is not empty. It is being prepared. Allah builds you into someone whose love is worth arriving for. This is perhaps the most golden of all the truths we will speak tonight. The one that requires the most courage to receive but contains the most power. You have been praying for the right person, but Allah has simultaneously been answering a deeper, more essential prayer. He has been making you the right person, not through perfection, never through perfection, through depth, through the kind of character that is only forged in the furnace of genuine difficulty, through the patience you discovered you had when patience was the only option available to you, through the compassion that grew in you out of having needed compassion and sometimes not received it, through the wisdom that accumulated through choices made, some wise and some not, and the honest reckoning that came after each one. A marriage is not simply a meeting between two compatible people. It is a daily, ongoing, sometimes breathtakingly difficult choice to be a home for another human soul. It requires the capacity to love someone on the days when loving them costs you something. It requires the ability to stay present with someone else's pain without being destroyed by it. It requires forgiveness as a practice, not an event. It requires the willingness to be known, truly known, with all of your complication and contradiction and humanity, and to know another in the same way, and to choose that knowing again and again. These are not capacities we arrive with fully formed. They are built, they are grown in us, by the specific conditions of our specific lives, by the trials Allah chose for us, because He knew exactly which experiences would develop exactly which qualities in us. The grief you have carried has made you tender. The loneliness you have survived has made you aware of how much presence matters. The betrayal you have processed has made you thoughtful about what you will ask of another person's trust. The waiting has made you appreciate in advance what impatience would have taken for granted. You are being built. Right now, in this season, through everything that feels like it has nothing to do with love, you are being constructed into someone whose love will be something worth giving and worth receiving. And the person who is written for you, the one Allah is simultaneously preparing on a road you cannot see, is going to encounter not the wounded, searching, desperate version of you that started this journey. They are going to encounter the version of you that walked through fire and came out not destroyed but deepened, not closed but opened in a way that only fire can open something, not less but more. That version of you is the one worth arriving for, and you are becoming them with every hard day that you do not give up, with every prayer you offer from the bottom of a grief you did not deserve, with every moment you choose to keep your heart open in a world that has given you reasons to close it. This is the most sacred preparation, and it is happening right now, inside you. Allah coordinates timing with a precision so perfect it can only be called divine. There are no accidents in what Allah writes. There are no near misses, no almost beens, no what might have happened if only the timing had been different. There is only what is written, what is decreed, what has been determined with the full knowledge of everything you are, and everything you will need, and everything the person waiting for you is, and everything they will bring. The timing of your meeting is not random. It is not lucky. It is not the result of a well-crafted dating profile, or a chance encounter, or the fortunate alignment of two social calendars. It is the result of something operating at a level entirely beyond human arrangement. It is the result of a decree made before either of you drew your first breath, being executed with the patience and precision of the one to whom time itself is a creation and not a constraint. But here is what timing actually means at its deepest level. It does not simply mean two people being in the same place at the same moment. It means two people arriving at that same place from their respective journeys of growth and healing and preparation, both of them having been shaped by their unique experiences into the specific versions of themselves that can actually receive each other well. A meeting without readiness is not a beginning, it is a collision. Two people who find each other before they have done their essential work will love each other with their wounds instead of their wholeness. They will see in each other not who the other truly is, but reflections of their own unresolved pain. They will hurt each other not from malice, but from blindness, the profound and forgivable blindness of people who have not yet learned to see themselves clearly enough to see anyone else. Allah protects you from that by making you wait, by continuing the preparation until both of you, on your separate roads that you cannot see each other on, have arrived at enough readiness to make the meeting a mercy rather than a new wound wearing love's face. And when the timing is right, when both roads have brought their travelers to the necessary readiness, the meeting will not feel like a dramatic collision or a moment you had to engineer or a reward you had to earn through perfect behavior. It will feel, many people say, like a settling, like something that was out of alignment finally clicking into place, like recognizing someone you did not know you were looking for. Your part in this is both simpler and more difficult than finding the right person. Your part is to become the most authentic, most healed, most God-conscious version of yourself, to keep building your deen and your character and your capacity for genuine love, to make the sincere effort through halal means and sincere dua, and then to release the outcome into hands that are infinitely more capable of holding it than yours. To trust not with the surface trust of someone repeating comforting words, but with the deep, earned, tested trust of someone who has watched Allah carry them through things they did not believe they could survive, and who has arrived on the other side of each one, still standing, still praying, still believing. That trust is your greatest act of worship in this waiting, and it will not be forgotten. Not by the one who wrote your name beside another name before the heavens and earth were created. Not by the one who has been watching every prayer, every tear, every brave and quiet act of continuing to believe when believing cost you something. He sees you, he has always seen you, and what he is writing for you is beyond what you have been able to imagine, because his imagination for your life is not limited by your wound or your fear or your timeline. It is limited by nothing, and what is written in limitlessness for a heart that has kept its faith through the fire, that is something worth every moment of the waiting. And now we arrive at the end of tonight's journey together, and I want to leave you not with information but with a feeling. I want you to carry something out of this conversation that changes the way you walk into tomorrow. The greatest sign that Allah is guiding you toward the right spouse is not that someone appears, it is that you appear, the real you, the healed you, the patient you, the trusting you, the you that no longer needs chaos to feel alive, or validation to feel real, or constant reassurance to feel worthy of love. The you that has learned, through everything, to be at home in yourself. Because that is the person who will recognize the right love when it arrives. That is the person who will be capable of keeping it. That is the person who will build something with it that lasts. Every hard thing you have been through was not the universe abandoning you. It was Allah refusing to give you something lesser when He had something greater planned. It was His mercy operating at a level too precise and too personal for you to see from inside the middle of it. You were never forgotten. You were never overlooked. You were never passed over in favor of someone more deserving. You were being prepared with the exact care and the exact patience and the exact love of the one who does not make mistakes. Ya Allah, the most merciful, the most loving, we ask you tonight for the hearts that are waiting, for every soul listening who has carried this longing with dignity and with faith. Reward them for the waiting itself. Heal what needs healing before the arrival. Protect them from connections that would diminish their deen, and write for them a marriage filled with the mercy you described in your book, the tranquility, the love, the compassion, the home that two souls make for each other when they are guided by you toward each other. Make the waiting meaningful. Make the arrival gentle. Make the love that comes real and lasting and rooted in something greater than feeling. Root it in you. Ameen, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ameen. If tonight's words reached something real inside you, if they put language to a longing you have been carrying quietly, if they gave you even one moment of genuine peace in a journey that has not always been peaceful, then you are exactly who this channel exists for. Subscribe to Guarded by Iman, because this conversation is only the beginning, and you deserve to know that wherever you are in the waiting, you are not alone in it.